Welcome to the Jessica Broadway podcast, where life is now in session and there's a lot to talk about. And boy, is it in session for me today. I am coming to you today to talk about the in-between. I had a really good idea and I was drying my hair. I knew what I was going to say, and I said, I need to go record this right now. I'm trying to be open to where this journey takes me, to record the things that come to mind, that connect. And in between, going from the bathroom where I was drying my hair to the kitchen table where my podcast impromptu situation is set up, I lost it. It just disappeared. It vanished. And so I prayed, please, Lord, bring me back my good idea, because it was really good. And it made so much sense in the bathroom. And what happened? I came in here, I got a text message that I looked at, I got an urgent situation I had to respond to, and boom, it was gone. All of a sudden, just vanished. And so I find myself in an in-between space today. In between what I thought I was going to do and what I am going to do. And I decided, or I did talk myself out of it several times. I thought, nah, well, I'll just wait till the idea comes back because it was so good that they have to know this and I have to record this. And then I caught myself and I thought, well, what if this was the good idea and that the prompting to come in here and record was just the beginning? And I found that to be true in life, that when you have a junction, if you will, from where you thought you were going to go and where you ended up, there's an in-between space where it doesn't really make sense, but you get an opportunity to create an and moment, a moment that you get to say, I don't remember what it was, and I'm still going to take action. I don't really like where I'm at, and I'm going to take action anyway. So this is what it looks like. It looks like coming here and having real conversations, because my greater calling or the greater purpose is that I keep committed to growing on this podcast and sharing that journey with you. I'm new to podcasting. I've always wanted to have a podcast, and what I've noticed about myself as I've kind of navigated this way, I started one called Big Ideas with some friends, and I was like learning my role there and trying to get comfortable with what does it look like in a tripod. And I had this expectation I was going to pop over here to a solo cast or, interviewing people randomly. And I was going to have it. I was going to nail it. And I turned on the camera for my first episode, recorded all these ideas that I had, and then decided and have discovered that maybe some of those ideas were just good for the moment, but they're not the final product. And man, is it uncomfortable to sit in the in between what I thought having my show was going to be like, the reality of having my show, and the realignment of growing in between, being okay in the messy middle of life, being okay when you don't have the answer. And this week seems to have been a series of those in-between moments, in between what you know and what you don't know. And I was going to record an episode on knowledge and how we accept information and how we share information. So maybe that's the place here, this idea of explaining how we receive information and how we process. And my grandpa, maybe you've heard me say this on other episodes, but I want to give you a little history lesson on this particular phrase. So my papa used to say to us, sweetheart, it ain't what you think you know, it's what you think you know that ain't so, and that's what's going to get you into trouble. And I find that statement to be so, so true for the in-between stages of life. The things you think you know are, I think that I know how, or I know that I know, right? I know how to drive a car, but I don't know how to fly a plane. So there's two categories there: what I know, and then what I know that I don't know. And then this messy middle are the things I think I know, but they're not true. They're not so. And later on in my professional studies, I learned about the way we assimilate knowledge. There's this whole category that we don't even know that we don't know. There's the things we think we know, but circumstances and time has changed them. I did an episode here on intangible losses and how those affect us and how they shape us. And they're almost always in the form of things that we thought we knew, but they're not true anymore. Or they're the loss of expectation, the loss of time. You think you're going to have time. So not only do you lose time, but you lose the expectation that you would have time. An ability to reconcile in the messy middle, in the in-between of life, really does matter. I've found that those are the moments that end up shaping a good bit of my life, is the in-between. And in order to make and moments count, you have to know what the goal is, what's the highest value that's pulling you through. And then you have to know who you are, and are you aligned with who you are and whose you are? How does that come together? Do you have a strong sense of that? Or are you going through a season where you're not really sure and you're recalibrating who you are? That's okay, but that's another in-between moment. In between life is where life is lived. Most of life is lived in a state of transition. And if it's not, if you're really comfortable and everything's going great for you, this is probably not the podcast for you. Maybe you'll pick up a few things that are exciting for you or entertaining for you, and that's absolutely possible. And I'd love for you to share those moments with me. But if you're someone who is navigating the in-betweens, I think you're going to find a really great home here. And I hope you'll join me on the journey, because I don't know where this is going to take us. That's part of why I wanted to call this, or why I went back and forth of like, is it the Jessica Broadway podcast or Life is Now in Session with Jessica Broadway? I'm not sure. Maybe it'll change again. We're in between name changes. But that is what it's like, to show up in the in-between and not wait till you have it all figured out. I've been prompted just now to share a story with you, and so I'm just going to go with it, because whatever I was going to tell you this morning has already flown the coop. So right this week, my son has gone up to his military training in Kansas City. He's at MEPS. For those of you who are familiar with that, if you aren't familiar, it stands for Military Entrance Processing Station. So he is up there today, and he has a color deficiency. Ugh, I don't want to cry. All of his life, since he was little, he has had trouble with seeing gradient colors. He can see vivids, but he's not able to see gradient color. And I have tried my best to kind of shield him from shame with that, and to try to help encourage him and to help him see things from a different perspective. And so oftentimes our conversations when he was little would sound like, "Mom, is this yellow?" And I'd say, "Well, some people might call it yellow, and if they do, it's okay. What does it look like to you?" It wasn't a way of like making him right all the time or okay all the time. What it was, my attempt or my intention was that I helped him navigate the in-between, understanding what he saw and what other people would say. Because when we're feeling vulnerable, we do have a tendency to correct other people and be critical. I don't want him to go through life trying to correct other people's color. So I'm like, well, some people are going to call it that. What does it look like to you? And if they call it yellow, that's okay. And that's what color I see too. But I wanted him to understand that it wasn't him that was wrong. I mean, it is wrong, obviously, if green is green and yellow is yellow. But the way he perceived it was that it was yellow. And I told him, I was like, you were born to see the world differently. Don't apologize for it. Just learn how to adjust with it. And so I thought that was doing the best thing I could do. But he was never, there isn't like much to do about that. So there's no diagnoses or things like that. So he progresses through life. It does affect him academically in some ways, but he begged me not to put it on paper and not to get him like any support. I mean, tears and crying to not do this, because he wanted to do, he's known for a long time that he wanted a career in the military. And so as things progressed this last couple of months, the colorblindness kind of faded into the background, but it resurfaced again when he called a color the wrong name. And someone asked him if he was colorblind, and then drew his attention to a particular job that he would like to have, and that he wouldn't be able to do that anymore if he wasn't colorblind, or if he was colorblind. And so he got really disappointed, and it really shook him on his options and what he was going to do. And this has been going on for about 6 months. And we were going to choose a different course of action. We had already written on the paper that he was color deficient. So he's not colorblind because he can see vivids, but he can't do gradients. So it's called color deficient. And he declared, he told them, he's like, I'm color deficient. And they said, it won't disqualify you, but it will change the job options. And he came home Friday and he said, Mom, I'm going to go for it anyway. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm going to go for it. I'm just not going to put it on there because I don't have a formal diagnosis. Nobody's actually said that I'm color deficient. And my heart like wanted to argue with him so badly. I was like, well, you can't fake a color test. Like, you're going to fail it. And I mean, you might as well kind of go in with a plan of like, this is how I'm going to deal with this, and give them the information. And he said, but what if I don't fail? And that, like, it just blew my mind. And somewhere in my heart, like, I was like, I felt this calling or this yearning, and I prayed about it, and I was like, I don't know what to do here. I don't want to create a spiritual hang up for him by saying like, we'll just pray for healing, and then it not happen. And then he thinks like that God doesn't love him, or like something gets twisted. And I also don't want to be so negative that I'm limiting what could be possible for him. And as I'm wrestling with this, coming out of my mouth says, well, he can't do that because I was counting on that almost as a safety. So he wants to be a combat engineer. And that means he would be a frontline person. And I always let him go with that. And I never argued with it, because in the back of my mind, I was like, well, you're color deficient, so you can't do it anyway. That was like my way of protection. I was like, well, they're going to put him in a safe place so he can still have his dream, and I can keep him safe. And so the idea of him not having it was a little bit hard for me to even reconcile it around my brain. Like, I couldn't even fathom the possibility of that. And as I was praying about it, I was like, well, that was supposed to keep him safe. And God said to me, well, don't you trust me to keep him safe anyway? And honestly, my answer was no. It was like, no, because he's mine, and I'm the one that's supposed to keep him safe, and that's what I do here on earth. And all of those things were logical and practical to me. And of course, I repented for that, and I was talking through it, and I was sitting with it for a very long time. And as I've been opening myself the last couple of days in this, again, in between stage of what I thought was going to happen, what it did, this kid puts on there and selects that he wants to be a combat engineer, and marches his butt up to Kansas City to audaciously and boldly pass a color test that he may or may not pass. And he asked me to pray for him. And I thought to myself, what disbelief do I have? Like, there's such a wrestling with knowing sometimes where you want to have that practical backup plan, and then the wild ambition of freedom of saying, I'm all in, Lord, let's go for a roller coaster ride. Like, that's scary, people. you don't want to look a fool. You don't want to proclaim something only to have a no. And as I was walking through this mental gymnastics that I was doing, I come from a pretty conservative background in spirituality, and this is a new territory for me, exploring and understanding and being open to possibilities. And God reminded me of my kids, and when they come in and they ask for something that they want, like really, really want, the idea of me saying no to them never even like enters their mind prior to them asking. Like, it's not a filter. They just come in and say, "Can I have this? Can we go here?" Macklin has dreamed up an entire birthday plan for himself for next year, where he's going to go to Universal, and we're just going. We're going. It's already signed, sealed, and delivered in his mind. And I'm like, "I don't think that's going to happen, buddy." And he's like, "Why not? It's going to happen." And he keeps asking for it, as if me saying no was just like basically saying, "Ask again." And I got these really vivid memories of these experiences, and I just felt called to kind of change my strategy up, see what happens, and not allow the no to deter me from asking for the yes. And so I did. So I got super uncomfortable, and I sat down next to my son and I said, "Would you like me to pray for your vision?" And so I did. I asked God that he would search Landon's eyes and that he would align them perfectly for him to see whatever he needs to see to be able to pass the test. I mean, I was very open about not knowing what to pray, because this is so new to me. I don't know how to do that. And I think there's grace for that if we're just willing to open ourselves up and stretch and get uncomfortable and risk being seen a fool or being risked. I would do that for my kid, for sure. Ugh. And so I prayed and I said, we are coming to ask you for a healing for Landon. And mostly I'm asking for you to grant him the peace that passes understanding, so that he is fully knowing that whatever answer he gets, a yes or a no, we don't know that. But it's not going to stop us from asking and fully believing that we could receive that he could receive that. And that logic, skeptical, safe part of my brain just really runs the logic play. And that's hard to overcome, but I think there's grace for that. And so we asked big, and we said, I told him that the thing I wanted him to remember the most from this experience is that I want him to always ask big. And I thanked him for teaching me the lesson of acting as if it's all been sorted out and not accepting defeat until you have to. So many times we go, "Well, it's probably not going to happen, so I won't even go for it." And that thought never even crossed his mind. In fact, against better judgment, he said, "Well, I don't have any proof. All I have is my experience, but I don't have any paper proof that I can't see the colors. And who knows, maybe the tests I took were not right. And maybe I can see, and maybe it's enough. Maybe I can see the right stuff for this job." And all of these possibilities of how it could come to be for him were real, and they are actual truths. But how often are we tempted to play it safe and pull back? How often are we just willing to add up the data that we think we know, when there's a whole possibility of things we think we know that aren't so? That's a lot to sit with. Like, imagine there was a whole world out there, a whole possibility that was only waiting for you to say, "You know what? I don't know," Or I'm curious about what could be, or what are the things I think I know that aren't so, that have silently resigned to being a truth for me that are not true. Or they're true, but they're not limiting, right? That you could stretch yourself and you could grow and you could recalibrate a new season that was expectant in your life of the good things that would to come, but you weren't afraid of asking anymore because you knew how to handle a no. The truth is, when I really asked myself why I didn't want to ask for that, it's because years ago, 12 plus years ago, I asked for my dad to be healed and God said no. And so I didn't like the no. So I just masked it with I'm sure you have a better plan or there's a better will, but I never really expressed my disappointment. And I have since expressed my disappointment. I've said I was sad and I wish that I had a yes. But what I didn't realize that I signed a contract with myself essentially to play it safe. And I just started praying safe prayers. I prayed prayers that would already come to pass, whether or not God was in it or not. If you understand that, you understand that. If you don't, I'm not explaining it to you. It is just a thing. You know God's in everything, but there's certain things that would just come to pass because of your own efforts, right? Like saying, God be with me today. He's there. He's with you. That would be a yes. That would be a safe, easy yes. And over the years, he's been slowly kind of undoing me and asking me to get braver and bolder and ask for the things that will probably be a no, or maybe they'll be a yes, but it's not my job to use the answer as the filter of whether or not I should take action on it or do it. So if you find yourself in the in-between stages of life, I am here for you. This intangible space of life where it's a messy middle, where you don't have words for it, but you absolutely feel it. I'm here. I'm in it. I've lived it. And there's still more to come. But I hope that you'll join the journey, that you'll like and subscribe to this channel, that you'll be part of following it and laugh with me and cry with me. If it's entertaining for you, share it with somebody else. If it means something to you, share it with somebody else. Follow me on social media. I think we're going to do some healing here together and from the inside out, even if the healing is healing a belief or healing a wound in our hearts, in our minds, in our bodies, in our spirit. I'm here for it. So I'm thankful for this little space to get to share these things. Thank you for being here. Love your people and live your purpose. Be open and curious to what you are becoming and appreciate where you already are. And don't stop creating possibilities for your life and the story that you're writing with it and the people that you're journeying with. Thanks for being here. Bye.